Welcome to Business Week, the program that brings you top business stories that made the headlines during the course of this week, including special news features, market data, interviews, and much more. Welcome to the show. Well, here's the highlight of the biggest stories we tracked for you over the course of this week. On the local front, the Monetary Policy Committee of the Central Bank of Nigeria has once again retained the MPR at 11.5% and also other key parameters as it discontinues the sale of forex to broad exchange operators, also halted license issuance simultaneously. After many months of decline, the external reserves in Nigeria managed to record some gains in what could be termed a curious twist of fate in just 7 days this month, with an average of $76.5 million. The total value of capital importation into Nigeria declined to $875.62 million in the second quarter of this year from $1.91 billion in the first quarter of the year. The federal government has also extended the deadline for NI and SIM data verification to October the 31st. On the international front, Bitcoin broke above $40,000 midweek and headed for another attempt at breaking from its month-long range as short sellers bailed out and also traders drew confidence from recent positive comments about the cryptocurrency by high-profile investors. In the United Kingdom, the Bank of England is set to also keep its stimulus running at full speed next week, despite two policymakers breaking ranks to suggest that its nearly £900 billion, an equivalent of $1.2 trillion bond buying scheme might have an early end as early as inflation speeds up. In the energy market, Royal Dutch Shell has also announced plans to develop a new oil field in the Gulf of Mexico, its first major project, to get the go-ahead since a Dutch court ordered the energy company to accelerate its carbon emission reduction targets. Tesla Incorporation also posted a bigger-than-expected second quarter profit thanks to higher sales of its less expensive electric vehicles as it raised vehicle prices and also cut costs. It's now time to bring you special packages prepared by our correspondents. Within the maritime space, port traders have been advised to be cognizant of the country's import and export guidelines before engaging in international trade. Government warns that citing ignorance as an excuse for non-compliance to custom, excise and export laws will not be tolerated. TVC News correspondent Ifeanyi reports.
The steady rise in import and export trade volume in Nigeria indicates an increased participation in international trade. Notwithstanding the yearly increase in cargo throughput and remittances by the Nigeria Customs Service to the Federation account, many cargoes get confiscated because some port traders lack information, thereby flouting import and export guidelines. The area controller of Apapa Customs Command, Yusuf Malanta, warns that ignorance is not an excuse for trade infractions.
The import procedures are very clear, and so also as the clearing procedures are very clear. In the import procedures, it's certain that an importer has to open an account with a designated bank and go ahead to ask or provide a pro forma invoice on what he's going to import. The Nigerian Customs Service also has a portal, trade portal, which also showcases the kind of item you are going to import vis-a-vis the kind of tariff classification on that particular item. And the portal also went further to explain what is prohibited and what is not prohibited.
He underscores the importance of establishing more port infrastructure to boost export trade that will grow the nation's foreign exchange reserve.
In this next report, an agriculture stakeholders meeting, once efforts to support agriculture productivity deepened, and the country gave this advice against the backdrop of several initiatives that have been designed to help the the sector thrive better, but still leave a lot to be desired for. Lara Falayo has the details.
In 2014, pioneer members of the country's Agricultural Mechanization Society commissioned academics across 8 federal universities to develop a roadmap for revamping the agricultural industry. Programs that emanated from that consultation include an agro-extension service scheme, women nurturing birds for wealth scheme, homegrown skills acquisition program, mass housing for farmers, and an agro marketplace.
The rural mechanization program for rural farmers across 528 local government areas. We are profiling about 25,000 farmers per local government across these 528 local government areas. We are providing agricultural mechanization with a view to rebranding the agricultural sector.
The programs are targeted at making farming more attractive to young people, providing faster access to the country's farm produce to avoid wastages and pricing problems, as well as bringing about more jobs and boosting mechanized farming. The authorities are now being told to give the required support to make these projects thrive.
It can be the largest mechanized agri project in Africa, and it will definitely unlock huge potential of Nigeria in terms of agriculture. It's about logistics, it's about small and medium enterprises development, about export promotion and other regulations.
Farming is no longer optional. Farming now is the in thing. It will be the place to be. It's the next, in short, is the right investment destination for every youth in Nigeria. Mechanization is here to stay, and we are providing from the beginning to the end, from soil preparation, cultivation, to storage, to packaging. We are providing the infrastructure for anybody who wants to come on board.
And now with this report, to delve into the feature of the show today, looking at an analysis of the outcome of this month's MPC meeting, the considerations and recommendations as highlighted by the CBN Governor, Godwin Emefiele. We have details of this and much more coming up shortly after this break. Many thanks for still staying with us. It's now time to bring you the crux of today's discourse, highlights of the 280th Monetary Policy Committee meeting of the Central Bank of Nigeria saw the retention of the monetary policy rate at 11.5%, asymmetric corridor of plus 100 minus 700 basis points around the MPR, the retention of cash reserve requirement at 27.5% and liquidity ratio at 30%. In the committee's view, the current economic situation in the country neither gives room for tightening, as this would hurt output growth, nor loosening, as this would also exacerbate inflationary pressures. Also, one of the biggest announcements of the day was the governor stating clearly that the CBN now discontinues the sale of forex to broad exchange operators, likewise halting license issuance. Here's a full report.
The Central Bank of Nigeria making known the outcome of its July Monetary Policy Committee meeting. And this comes with the announcement of an end to dollar sales to bureau de change operators. The Apex Bank blames this decision on their involvement in illicit forex deals. It also adds that going forward, applications for BDC licenses will not be processed. Weekly sale of foreign exchange will now be directed to commercial banks. The banks are admonished to sell the forex to consumers transparently, as no illegal transactions will be tolerated.
We are also concerned that bureau de change have become a conduit for illicit financial flows. Indeed, the facts abound that BDCs have turned themselves into agents that facilitate graft and corrupt activities of people who seek to conduct illicit funds flow and money laundering in Nigeria, and we will go after all of them.
On the outcome of the MPC meeting, the existing monetary policy stance was retained on grounds of a need to consolidate economic growth amid inflation at a 4-year high.
The committee thus decided on, by a unanimous vote, to retain the monetary policy rate at 11.5%. In summary, MPC voted to 1. Retain MPR at 11.5%, 2. Retain asymmetric corridor at plus 100 and minus 700 basis points around the MPR, 3. retained the CRR at 27.5% and 4 retained the liquidity ratio at 30%.
The Apex Bank urged the public to report banks who deny them access to Forex. It also revealed that its e-Naira initiative takes off in October, adding that its stand on cryptocurrencies has not changed.
And now joining me to further analyze the outlook and decisions of the committee, I have via Skype Adeola Ojo, an economist. Good to have you on the show today.
Thank you so much, sir.
In the committee's view now, the current economic situation neither gives room for tightening of the rates or loosening. Now, many analysts had already predicted a hold stance situation as the best option to enable the continued permeation of current policy measures in supporting recorded growth and recovery so far, as well as macroeconomic stability. But this doesn't come to you as a surprise, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, it's not a surprise, basically. When you look at they gave us reasons, and from those reasons that they actually listed, there's a reason actually for them to maintain a hold even upon on the economy as it is. And I think I support that position from my own point of view. I think I support that position.
The economic outlook as painted by the committee isn't so grim if we are predicating the forecast on the fact that inflation has also begun to trend downwards while output growth remains quite positive. But taking a critical look at government's policy measures to faster drive down inflation while at the same time also accelerate output growth to levels above population growth rates, these need some tweaks. The governor of the Central Bank of Nigeria mentioned that the arsenal at its disposal right now have almost be fully exhausted. Do you still think a continued use of these same tools at hand will give us greater recovery prospects, as the argument is that some of the policy measures actually do not give enough room for aggressive support to the goods and services sector and then also drive down prices? Your thoughts really, especially as we still have insecurity threatening the business climate as we speak.
Basically, when I read that, I was actually taken aback, because you won't say you have finished or you have almost exhausted the arsenals, all the available arsenal at your disposal. You won't say so, because at every point in time, these economic processes or policies have been in place for many decades, and they have been working at one time or the other. These economic policies have been used in different economies, in different monetary systems, and they have worked. So I think what the CBN and the Monetary Policy Committee should do is to look at what they have been doing over time and see where they have not been able to measure up. Because in the context of this, I want to say there is none of those policies that will not in any way work. But the issue is that the way and manner we manage it is a factor. Then number two, we also should understand, because sometimes you need to domesticate your policy to understand the way and manner your people behave. And that's why economics is a social science. It studies human behavior as a relationship between ends and scarce means, which are alternative uses, because it studies the behavior of man. So you should also understand how your economy operates, how your people behave. And we've seen that in what they've just done now is as a result of the behavior of Nigerians, of our people, how they operate, how they run, how they work. You put a policy in place, they change it for you. You put a policy in place, they have a way of going around it. You have put a policy in place, a measure, you even tell them with laws and every other thing, even with sanction, they still find a way to circumvent it. And at the end, you now come again and say, is it that I'm not doing it right? Or what else do I need to do? So I think what the CBN and the Monetary Policy Committee should do is to sit down, look at what they are doing and what they have done and what the policies they have put in place, see where they have not been able to, though they said that they want to make sure they tighten things and they also make sure they enforce things beyond the normal. Maybe before they just give the law, the policy, and things go, they allow things to fly. They allow the banks to operate. They allow the Bureau de Change operators to operate. But now they said they want to make sure that they follow it through. Yeah, beautiful. So they shouldn't say they have exhausted their arsenal, even if it is one policy they put in place, they can make sure it works. So we should understand our people, we should study them, and we should find a way out to do. And again, maybe in the context of the discussion, we can emphasize on that. We have been going around this policy, this platform for long. 2016, we went through this same thing we are doing now, and it did not end well for us. So I think it's a time for us to sit down again and analyze, look at the antecedents, and look at what we have now for us to be able to make a conclusive conclusion.
And looking at a conclusion now, in terms of insecurity, how do you think this would also tweak the conversation?
Well, as it is, I believe because this is the time for harvest, and also we are doing some little planting, but majorly harvest of yam, or most of the cash crops and food crops. This is the period we harvest them. And I believe this is the time for our security agencies and federal government of Nigeria to put measures in place to make sure that the harvests are done, because the bandits are increasing and they are actually working, and they also understand how things work. So if, like they did in Borno the other time, that when people went over there to go and say they want to go and harvest their crops, they waylay them and they kill them. And eventually, the people were now afraid to go to farm. So if such should happen again, then we're going to have some challenges. So I think the security organizations and the federal government of Nigeria should put measures in place to provide security across those states, even across the country, so that food can get to everybody. And as a result of that, things can get, because this policy that we are trying to put in place, food is on the topmost echelon. And if we do not tackle that aspect, it's going to cause a whole lot of challenge across the nooks and crannies of the country. And I believe Nigeria will be better if we're able to take up the stand now and handle it properly.
Now, banks are urged to continue using its existing administrative methods to rein in inflation by the use of its discretionary CRR policy to mop up liquidity from the banking system as the need arises. Would you say our banks are healthy enough to expand credit and loans to output-stimulating and employment-generating sectors of the economy, such as manufacturing, agriculture, and ICT, all of these away from our fixation on oil?
Yeah, I think the first aspect there is a reference to CBN, which is the bank. They should make sure that the policy of cash reserve ratio, the liquidity ratio that's expected of banks is maintained. And I think I will support that position of theirs, that the CBN should be up and doing and make sure those banks are called to letter and made to observe that aspect. Then number two, I would say on the issue of whether the banks are healthy or not, as of today, I would say most of our Nigerian banks, the banks in Nigeria are healthy. And when you look at at least from what they reel out as their performance, they are doing very well. And I also want to commend the CBN and the banking, the managers, the leaders of the banks, that they have been able to do well in recent time, especially as regards loans to the real sector and everything. But I also want to say it is not yet enough. I want to thank God for what has been happening. The non-performing loans have been going down. So many other things have been happening. But I think we have not been able to do enough. So please, I want to beg, because each time a moment, they will reel out, especially from the MPC, they reel out the places they have given out money, 1 trillion naira, almost 1 trillion naira to this particular place, almost 300 billion to agriculture sector and co. But at the end, you begin to ask, where are this money? Where are they? Because you look at your environment, you look at your place, you look at where things are, you can't actually fathom. Maybe in the context of time, you should be asking them, give us the names of these places, of these people you have given out this loan to. Give us the list, let us see. Because we need to understand this. Yes, banks are doing well, but let me just not talk too much on that. So what I want to say is that they should go all the way, put in more effort, support the real sector, support those sectors that can create employment, support the sector that can help us achieve growth. Then we can get out of this challenge and we become a better country.
The foreign exchange market has also come under focus. The stance of the committee based on its considerations to discontinue the sale of forex to bureau de change operators of Nigeria and also halt the issuance of licenses. Do you think this is a harsh stance, and what happens next for players in this segment of the market?
A proverb says actually that we do not cut our head to spite our face. Yeah, if you say your people, the bureau de change operators are recalcitrant, are reckless, trying to do this and that, we should not take this stance. And I believe that the reason why that decision was taken was because that policy favors the banks. And the people that are sitting at that particular meeting were bankers. So they saw, oh, this is a better way for us to make money. Oh, no problem. Please just take it away from them. I believe it is not the best policy, the best. We did this in 2016, and it did not all go well for the Naira. When the federal government, or when this current democratic dispensation came into place in 2015, we knew what the dollar rate was, 190 to 212. And today, we are talking about 500, going to 600. It is not good. We have gone through this path before, taking the licenses of bureau de change operators, suspending, asking those who are, you do not do that. Like I said earlier, you do not cut the head to spite the face. If there is anyone, thank God, in the context of time, we have a board, a department in CBN that monitors bureau de change operators. And weekly, they are to give reports. So if you think that any one of them have gone through or done something that is bad, then in the context of time, you punish that the bureau de change operator, not all. If two have done, take away their license. But now you take away the license, you take away the job from them. You are saying any new, even if the person that is coming in has a better plan, you have taken away that. You said you are not going to give any new license to anybody, and you ask them to come and take back their money. I think it is not the best way. Yes, you have taken away dollar supply to them. You don't want to supply them dollar. Let them still remain. They are serving a purpose. I cannot access a banking office, that is a deposit money bank, and say, I need $100,000 or $200,000 for my SME. Most of the time, they will tell me I cannot access it. They will have a ration for me. But at the bureau de change, I can access such figure and do my business. Yeah, number two, we also have a challenge. I'm sorry if I'm going a bit away from what we're discussing, but I think we should also understand this part. Within the same context, you cannot, now we're having challenge of COVID-19 pandemic. We have restrictions entering the banks. Sometimes they will ask you to stay outside. Now you are asking everybody, both the customers of the banks and would be people that need forex, to go and access forex in the bank. Then we're going to cost more people, more population within the banking sector. What are we trying to achieve? You get me, sir? So a whole lot of things. So taking away their license is not the answer. And indeed, we have seen the results. The dollar rate is going to skyrocket. The challenge is we are going to have artificial scarcity. And at the end, do you know also one challenge here? The banks will still give this money to bureau de change operators to sell, and they're going to sell at a premium. And at the end, what is going to happen? The dollar that you are trying to safeguard is going to increase in value to Nigeria. It's going to cause suffering. It's going to cause inflation. You are trying to stem.
And lastly, now with forecasts ahead, as we're having the next MPC meeting coming up sooner than later, we also have projections from government and also international borders in terms of GDP forecasts and the state of the economy. Do you share in this anticipation that we'll see increased public-private partnerships, issuance of diaspora bonds to ease the FX rate pressure, and also infrastructure development? The speed with which all of these will take off has to be looked at in the context of the deployment of vaccines as well, wouldn't you say?
Thank God for the vaccines that we have. We trust God that the economy of the globe will bounce back and COVID will go. But I just want to tell us this. We have so many postulations and many theories, or many from IMF, from CBN, from Federal Government of Nigeria, that the economy will grow at this rate, and this rate, and at this rate. And indeed, everybody is working towards achieving that. Yes, take away global COVID. The economies of the world are actually preparing to grow. And that was why when we look at it, global economic, what do you call it now, predictions, they actually said Africa or the less developed countries will grow at about 6%, and while the developed economies will grow about 5%. But for Nigeria, we are looking at it growing by 3%. But sir, please try and look at this. At the beginning of the year, towards the end of last year, we grew by 0.11% in GDP, and first quarter, we grew by 0.5% growth. And we are looking at 3% growth for the year. As at the half of the year now, we have not been able to achieve 1.5% growth. So what I think we should do, and which the MPC also should do, is for us to first of all look at this stance, especially the one that has to do with the one that concerns us the more now, the Bureau de change position. We should not exacerbate the challenge of accessing dollars because we want to grow the economy. We want to grow our output. Please, I beg again, they should not allow this issue of dollar to cause instability in the economy.
Thank you very much for your time on the show today, Adeola Ojo. It's been a pleasure speaking with you.
I appreciate it.
Well, just before we go, here are graphic details of the latest data on Transport Fare Watch for the month of June. And that's it on this edition of Business Week. Many thanks for watching so far. Do enjoy your weekend. I'm David Alabi. Bye for now.